Hey guys, what's cracking? It's Krakenation here, and I'm coming at you guys today to talk about OBSTAGOON. OBSTAGOON was a Pokemon announced very early on in the Pokemon Sword and Shield trailers, so we've known about it for a while. We didn't know exactly what it did. I actually made a pretty successful video on this channel talking about OBSTAGOON and what it could potentially do as far as like in competitive play, but now we know, and now we know what this Pokemon's working with. Let's go ahead and take a look at its competitive viability and what sets you can run if you want to put OBSTAGOON on your team. Before I get into that, huge thank you guys to all you guys that have just the outcry support we've been getting has been absolutely freaking phenomenal. I love it so much. It's really warmed my heart and just means the world to me when you guys like. Our subscriber count has just about tripled recently. That's incredible. So if you want to community support this channel, stay up to date with your Pokemon Sword and Shield competitive analyses, how do you build Pokemon, and how to be as good as you can in competitive play, go ahead and subscribe to this channel. It'd be super appreciated. You can go ahead and join the Discord in the description box below. That way you can ask me questions and I'll be able to answer a little more proactively. Like this video, leave a comment down below. All of it is very appreciated. But alright, let's go ahead and get into this video. So OBSTAGOON is a dark normal type, which is a typing that we've seen in the past with Alolan Raticate. And that's not a great typing. It is interesting because it allows it to just absolutely crap on ghost types like there is no tomorrow. But that's just about all it does. So it's going to be a little hard pressed beyond that. Reckless, Defiant are the two abilities. The Reckless ability gives a boost to all attacks that cause recoil. So namely, the only poke move that this gets that really does recoil that you use is Double Edge. The other ability, Defiant, whenever you have a stat drop, it'll raise your attack by 2 stages. So what's really cool about that is when you get intimidated, your attack, instead of going -1, goes up +2, so it becomes +1. Or, for example, when you get Defog, this Pokemon can come in on a Defog, get +2 attack, and start going off. So both are very viable abilities on this guy. I wish he got maybe some Recoil Dark move or something, or Sucker Punch would be really good on him. Unfortunately, he gets neither of those. So that's going to have to be something we look at when we're taking a look at this notable move pool. But for now, let's take a look at these stats. So across the board, these are pretty average stats. 93 HP, 101 defense is pretty good bulk. It's pretty good physical bulk, maybe slightly above average, if anything. 90 attack is okay, not great, but it's okay. Usable, I suppose. 60 special attack is awful. 81 special defense is decent, so it's got okay, maybe around average special defense. And then 95 speed is again decent, nothing standout. So everything besides that special attack stat is just about average. Maybe the only thing it stands out in is its physical defense is pretty decent. That's not even standout. So just across the board, OBSTAGOON is kind of a well-distributed stats. I would have loved to see a little more attack or a little more speed on this guy. I feel like it could easily have a little more attack or speed. Unfortunately, it got neither, so it's going to be a little hard-pressed to utilize those stats effectively. And so we're going to take a look at move pool and see what's going on there. So it's got access to Bulk Up as a way to boost its stats. It doesn't have Swords Dance, but it does have Close Combat, which will let it break through those steel types. Double Edge is a very good move when combined with Reckless. It'll do a lot of damage to yourself, but you have a decent amount of HP, so you'll be able to take some punishment back from the recoil and hopefully do some major damage with Reckless boosted Double Edge. Fire Punch, Ice Punch, Thunder Punch are all options you can run. We've also got Knockoff here. It's going to be your go-to stab dark move. Gunk Shot's really good for hitting those fairy types before they hit you. So that's going to be very, very powerful. Night Slash is also a good option, but Knockoff is just going to be, in general, your best set. It's got Obstruct, which is its signature move. Obstruct is basically Protect, but if your opponent makes contact with Obstruct, their defense is lowered by 2 stages. Now, that's pretty cool. That's really good. I think if this Pokemon got Sucker Punch, it could make a lot more use of Obstruct. If it got maybe Extreme Speed, some form of decent, strong priority, it would make a lot more use of that, because unfortunately, as it stands right now, it's going to have a hard time being fast enough to even make use once it gets an Obstruct drop on its opponent. So something that's going to be kind of difficult to utilize, but it is still obviously a very powerful effect. So that's going to be something you keep in mind. You could maybe force a switch with it thanks to it, so you can maybe just fire out that Knockoff anyways. Parting Shot is another really good move that you've got on this thing. Parting Shot's going to be very, very powerful for you and allow you to switch out while dropping the stats of your the offensive stats of your opponent. It's also got things like Switcheroo, which is basically just Trick, lets you switch items with your opponent. Taunt is a very good utility move, and X-Scissor could be a good bug-type move for you. So let's take a look at this first set I've cooked up for us today. This is going to be the Life Orb offensive utility set. So basically the goal of this set is just to put pressure on, utilize that Obstruct ability as best as this Pokemon possibly can. So I'm running 252 attack, 252 special speed, and a jolly nature to maximize your offensive capabilities. Reckless to give you those reckless boosts on your double edge. So knockoff double edge will be your go-to moves. After that, you could choose to run maybe gunk shot or close combat. Close combat could help you hit those fairy types, or those steel types. And gunk shot, sorry, would help you hit those fairy types. So you've got some options offensively there. Knockoff's going to be your go-to move in most situations. Double edge is going to be a better move if you want to. If you're okay taking some damage, you want to hit a lot really hard. And this set most notably will let you utilize obstruct, and therefore you'll be able to be a little stronger in that regard when you're doing your attacks if your opponent's defense stat is lowered. So this next set I've cooked up for you guys is what I call the tricky scarf, and this is kind of like a utility scarf version. So we're going to run Defiant this time so we can get those attack boosts if you manage to switch it in on a defog, for example. Because with a Scarf and a Defiant boost, this thing can start hitting very hard with those knockoffs. But we're going to run a Scarf to give that speed boost. Again, just maximizing its speed and attack, and then giving it a jolly nature to make sure it's getting as much favorable speed matchup as it can. We're going to run Switcheroo. So if you're playing against the stall team, Switcheroo could be used to just completely neuter one of your opponent's Pokemon so they can't use that stall Pokemon. Knockoff and close combat will be pretty good just for 2 options to attack your opponent's team. For the last move, we've got Parting Shot this time. Parting Shot is a really good move that could let you, you come in as a Scarfmon, you switch out, and then from there you can lower your opponent's stats, and you can bring in maybe like a sweeper or a bulkier defensive setup mon. Not totally sure, but for example, the reason that Pangoro is good is because you use Parting Shot, but you're also slow, so you're able to switch out. So this obviously doesn't fall exactly to that. This is more of a fast pivot that could maybe bring in a more tanky Pokemon to take a hit, and then hopefully maybe like a slower, bulkier Wall Breaker would be the next obvious choice. So looking at some pros and cons for OBSTAGOON, just to summarize what we've gone over here today, it's got a good physical move pool with a lot of really powerful base power moves. So it's got a lot of things going for it as far as move pool is concerned. It's also got great utility moves. Things like Parting Shot and Obstruct are just well known as, like, Parting Shot is an incredible move that sees a lot of competitive play. Just the unfortunate thing being that it's poorly distributed. And it's also got decent physical bulk that we talked about. That's probably its most standout thing, is decent physical bulk. Unfortunately, there are a lot of cons with OBSTAGOON. It's got very mediocre offensive stats, so you're going to be kind of short-lived as far as how much pressure you're putting on if you're not getting those reckless boosts off your, those defiant boosts. It's also got pretty poor speed if you don't give it boosts. So for an offensive Pokemon that's also not overly bulky, it's pretty slow to boot. So its stats are just well distributed, which kind of is what this next point is. It's not very well specialized, so you'd much rather see like maybe less of one stat and more of another, so that it could be a little more focused on what it wants to do. Like, for example, I'd be okay seeing a little less defense if it had a little more speed, or a little less special attack for a little more physical attack. There's a lot of things there that I feel like didn't line up perfectly right when you distribute stats this evenly. Some Pokemon can make use of that, but it takes the right move pool and the right Pokemon. So for example, something like Mew or Manaphy. Not all Pokemon want to be spread out like that. A lot of Pokemon would much rather be very specialized. So that's what I kind of have for the pros and cons here. Let's go ahead and take a look at some team options you have when you're building around OBSTAGOON. So first up, Psychic types are going to be really good next to OBSTAGOON. OBSTAGOON is able to absolutely just crap on Ghost types, comes in and destroys them. So Psychic types will really appreciate that. Psychic types are usually also pretty bulky, so they can take on the fighting types that OBSTAGOON is very, very afraid of. So that's going to be a good synergy there. You want to pair OBSTAGOON with a Psychic type for sure. Next up, a good Wall Breaker would be a very good partner for OBSTAGOON. Like we said, if you can run that Parting Shot set, you can maybe click Parting Shot, bring in your slow, bulky Wall Breaker, and fire off a very powerful attack without being worried about taking too much damage in return. Finally, a Pivot partner could be very good, just because it does get Parting Shot, so it has some pivot access, so you might want to be able to switch around with pivots. Just in general, this Pokemon also with Obstruct, lowering attacks, you're going to want to switch around so you can take advantage of those favorable stat drops as often as possible. Big threats for it are going to be special attackers. It doesn't have a great special defense stat. Also, special attackers aren't making contact with your Obstruct move, so that means you're not going to be able to utilize Obstruct against special attackers, which is a really big benefit that OBSTAGOON has, taken away from it. So, special attackers are a really big problem that you're going to want to deal with when you're building with OBSTAGOON. Physical walls in general will be a problem. If OBSTAGOON doesn't have that Defiant boost, it's going to have a really hard time breaking through barriers in front of it. So physical walls will definitely pose a problem. If they're not weak to knockoff, I guess, or something like that. But Finally, fighting types are obviously a big problem for it. Fighting types resist that dark move that you're going to run, and then they can also obviously, like a Mach Punch, for example, would absolutely destroy this thing. Now, keep in mind, you could click Obstruct against the fighting type and help yourself out a lot, but if the fighting type is faster than you, unfortunately, the problem is with Obstagoon, if a Pokemon is faster than it, there's nothing Obstagoon can do, even when it clicks Obstruct. It's still going to get outsped the next turn. And I think that's the problem this Pokemon faces. I don't imagine this being the most competitively viable Pokemon, unfortunately. I don't think it's going to be more than like an NU level Mon. But that doesn't mean you can't have fun using it and you can't find a home for it in competitive play. So let me know what you guys thought about this video. Let me know if you enjoyed. Make sure to click that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with everything that I am doing in Pokemon Sword and Shield. And definitely try to join the Discord server as well if you want to ask me some questions about this video. But until next time, I will see you guys later. Krakenation out.